The Electronic Service Tool, or EST, is an important tool for K and L series troubleshooting, configuration settings, calibration, and information retrieval. The EST's controller status screen displays which controllers communicate with the EST, the current controller hardware version, the current controller software version, and the controller communication status. The Retrieve Controller Fault screen displays which controllers communicate with the EST and controller communication status. It also has buttons for retrieving controller faults for the selected controller or from all controllers. The Monitor screen displays controller parameter information, such as data value inputs or outputs in a real-time display. You can pick and choose the parameters to monitor that are relevant to your task. For the parameters you select, there'll be a description, value, units, status, and source. Typical parameter values are shown in your TechCom reference manual. The calibration icon accesses the calibration assistant, which is used to supplement the onboard calibration routines for the throttle and brake position sensors on the 650K through 850K machines, as well as the hand throttle and decelerator pedal sensors on the 1150K, 750L, and 850L machines. The assistant is not required to perform this calibration, but it will provide additional help by guiding you through the proper steps for successfully completing the calibration. You can use the calibration assistant on all models to select the horsepower curve, calibrate the potentiometer limits, and calibrate the engine load curve. Calibration is a required process for any drive issue resolution, and when any potentiometers are found to be loose or are adjusted, it's recommended whenever service is performed. When you select the calibration assistant, the EST on-screen instructions will automatically change during the calibration procedure based on the signals from the machine. The calibration assistant also has a check sensor outputs feature. Use this screen when adjusting the throttle potentiometers and brake position sensors. If an EST is not available, you can perform the calibration with the Dozer onboard electronic system. This procedure is a little different between machine models. To calibrate the 650K through 850K Series 3 dozers without the EST, park the machine on flat level ground and place the park brake levers in the raised position. Put the master disconnect switch in the on position and ensure the ignition switch is in the off position. Press and hold the bump up and bump down speed buttons on the joystick and start the engine. Continue to hold the buttons until you see HP and a set of numbers on the instrument cluster display. Now use the bump up and bump down buttons to select the horsepower rating for the machine you're calibrating. If you select the wrong horsepower range for the machine, the calibration will be incorrect and the machine functions will be affected. When the proper rating is displayed, press both bump up and bump down speed buttons for approximately 1 second and release. The instrument cluster should read Cal Brake. Next, using a smooth motion, move the brake pedal from the release to applied position 4 times. And move the throttle to high idle and leave it there. With the brake pedal released, move the decelerator pedal from high to low idle 3 times to set the endpoints. With the decelerator pedal depressed to the low idle position, press both the bump up and bump down buttons for 1 second and release. The instrument cluster will read Cal Inc. Finally, move the decelerator pedal from low idle to high idle smoothly and steadily 1 time over a period of 15 to 20 seconds to set the engine calibration curve. The instrument cluster will then read Cal Done. Shut down and restart the engine to store the values in internal memory. If the instrument cluster reads Error Range during this operation, the throttle was not in the low idle position at the start of Cal Increase. The engine is not running, or no engine speed signal is being received. If at any time during calibration the instrument cluster reads Cal Fail, stop the engine and restart the procedure. To calibrate the 750L, 850L, and 1150K without the EST, the steps are very similar. However, the engine does not need to be running during the procedure. Again, park the machine on flat level ground and place the park brake levers in the raised position. Press and hold the bump up and bump down buttons, turn the key switch to the on position, and release the buttons when you see Model Select and a set of numbers on the instrument cluster display. Then use the buttons to adjust the horsepower range if you need to. Next, press and hold the bump up and bump down buttons for 1 second, or until you see Choose Gauge. Now, check and adjust the gauge of the crawler. Choose LT for LT and XLT machines, and WT for WT and LGP machines. Then, press and hold the bump up and bump down buttons for 1 second, or until brake pedal is displayed. Press and release the brake pedal from fully up to fully down for 3 cycles. If you see out of range on the display when moving the brake pedal, hand throttle, or foot throttle, the values are out of range, or the potentiometer value has not changed since this mode has been started. Now press and hold the bump up and bump down buttons for 1 second until hand throttle is displayed. Then move the hand throttle from the low idle position to the full high idle position 3 times. Press and hold the bump up and bump down buttons for 1 second until decelerator is displayed. Then press and release the foot throttle from fully up to fully down for 3 cycles. If out of range is displayed, the idle switch has not passed the self-check. Finally, press and hold the bump up and bump down buttons for 1 second until you see Calibration OK. Turn the key switch off to store the calibration. If Cal Fail is displayed, the new data acquired from the calibration has not been stored, and the DTC will default back to the old values. Even though you can calibrate the K and L series dozers with or without the EST, it's a great troubleshooting tool for the dozers. With the EST Troubleshoot Problem screen, you can see troubleshooting information related to the documented fault codes, connector pin information, circuit and vehicle harnesses, and component locations. There is an additional Faults button to view current faults from this screen. Your TechCom reference manual includes fault code list for the K and L series dozers. You've completed Section 3, the EST and Hydrostat system. In this section, we covered how to use the EST for K and L series troubleshooting, configuration, calibration, and information retrieval, and how to calibrate the dozers if the EST is not available.